Welcome to my community. I'm Sherwood McCaskie. Thanks for joining us. It is the story of how an institution here in the community of the Garden, St James, through its various ministries, met the needs of individuals not only in Barbados but abroad. It is that wonderful story of the very good work of our people as told by our people, more specifically the good work of the late Reverend Dr. Victor Babb as told by the lady of his life, the Reverend G. Yvonne Babb. You will learn of how the tentacles of this community church reached and influenced the lives of people in Haiti.
After a while, he was not only the pastor of the Gardens Church of God, but he became the first, what we called at the time, director of the Caribbean Atlantic Assembly, because the churches in the area, the 14 churches or so, they had a vision that we should have a Caribbean community in the church. From Bermuda, although they were not in the Caribbean area, Cayman Islands and Jamaica and all those islands there, they wanted to be more united because they felt that they could minister better to a wider audience if they were more united. That first was birthed in Trinidad, that idea, and he became the first regional director. That's what they called it at the time. And our missionary board in Anderson, Indiana, they gave good support. They gave financial support as well as visitation and training and so on. So then Victor became a member of the board at Anderson. And so he would go up twice a year to meetings and so. And he liaised with the churches in the various territories. If there was some disaster, so we never waited, we stepped in right away and did what we should do. And we would have conventions, we call them, every 2 years, and in different territories, so that we kept in touch with each other, and we were able to fill in gaps that needed to be filled. His official title is Reverend Dr. Victor Babb. He was given an honorary doctorate in 1989 by Warner South College for his work in the Caribbean, in uniting the churches as much as he was able, and in working with Haiti. And so he was their representative, so to speak, in the Caribbean area, because they're all in Anderson, Indiana, and we are down here. So he would make frequent trips there. We would have conventions every year. We would attend in Anderson, Indiana, and so. So Haiti was really high on his agenda. And I recall the year he came back from visiting Haiti, he was so moved at what he had seen. He shared with the church, brought tears to many eyes, including his. And we decided that we would have Haiti as a missionary project, the national church now. And that's what we did. But then he made several visits to Haiti. He loved the people, and the people loved him, as one of our booklets shows us. They loved him, they appreciate him, they call him Papa Victor, and so on and so forth. And you know, when you can go into a country that is so different from yours and let the people see that you would like to be one of them. You can eat with them. It's not what you're accustomed of eating. It's not how you're accustomed of eating. It's not how you're accustomed of living. But you are coming down where you're serving them where they are at. Not asking them to come up where you are at the moment. Eventually they may do that, but you are serving them where they are at. And that's what he did. That fueled my interest in Haiti. And he took me to Haiti too. And Haiti had to be seen to be believed. We had nothing that could really prepare us for what we saw. So when I saw that they had like little thatched buildings, coconut thatch, and that's would be their school, and of course just the dirt floor. And we realized that there was a crying need for people to be educated. They just wanted to be able to read. And I, being an educator, know that really challenged me. So I decided after a while that I would take a team of educators to Haiti. Some of them were practicing teachers at secondary and primary schools, and some of them were retired, as I was at the time. 2002, we visited there, and we got some assistance from the regional women of the Church of God, which I have not mentioned before. However, they gave us some assistance, financial assistance, and we took a team. And these educators, they paid their way and so on, and we visited. And of course, we had the language barrier because we didn't speak the language. Our school girl, French was not up there, and of course, they did not speak that anyhow. They spoke a kind of patois. So we went and we visited, and we did classes. We gave them some training. And they were so enthused and so happy. We had graduation and all that kind of thing, giving them the insight into, how they could improve their skills and help their people, because the people were crying out. They just wanted to be able to read. We had an initiative there where teachers from here, people from here, supported the teachers from Haiti, and financially, because the money that they were paid was very little. They can't live on that. So there are people who gave monthly, and that money was transmitted to them. And any problem that they had that we could deal with, we would deal with it. So then the arrangement was that we would have them come to visit Barbados. And I cleared that with the Ministry of Education and gave permission. And we brought down the team, and they were able to visit our schools to see the practitioners at work. That was in 2004, right? And since then, they have been asking for another such project, which I know that they needed it. We never did get to make that second trip, but just recently speaking to the missionary there, Sister Phyllis Newby, she's a Jamaican missionary to Haiti, and she kept saying to me, we need another visit like that. I said, well, it can't come through me, it has to come through somebody else. And you have to have somebody that has the vision, the feeling to go. Because I say to people that what people call success is more than 90% hard work. And some people don't want to put in that. So they may want to, but they may be they may be unable to for one reason or another. So he was very, very supportive of Haiti. And although he is passed, we are still, as a family, we are still supportive of Haiti. Yeah. Because as I said, I used to feel that it would have been good if some of our people here could get the opportunity to spend a few days in Haiti. I think the outlook on life would be quite different. It has to be seen, to be believed. It's a few years now since I've gone there, but as I recall, I don't think it has too much improved from what it was. That's how that got started. So he would travel to the various territories. So after a while, it was so demanding that he found that he could not really carry on as pastor, because although we had an assistant pastor, and although I was very helpful to him, yet we felt that we needed a pastor. So he gave up that after a while.
Credit unions have transformed the social and economic status of several Barbadians, enabling them to advance from the underprivileged class to the homeowner class, of course, by providing affordable terms and conditions for access to loans to finance a wide range of programs. Interestingly enough, this community, in fact, the Church of God here in the Garden St. James, was the birthplace of one such credit union that met the needs of the community.
Over the years, 100 years is a long time, but for major portions of our history, the church here at the Garden has been involved in what I consider cutting-edge ministry, not only doing work to minister to the spiritual needs of people, but being very influential in the birth of things like the Church of God Credit Union, which is now One Heritage Credit Union Limited, having merged with the Wesleyan Holiness Church.
The idea came out of what we call our General Assembly. The General Assembly is comprised from delegates from every church, and the number of delegates depend on the size of the church, you know, the attendance. Right? So that idea came up, but then it never went any place. So when he became pastor at Gardens, he was really sold on the idea, and he wanted to continue. So he started it at Gardens Church. And then it was extended to the national church. He felt one thing is that people in the church needed to be more actively engaged in providing for themselves, and part of this would have to come through their savings. And so they were encouraged to do that. And then they made it a formal arrangement on a national level. And the churches are still involved in that. No, yes. It was very helpful, because then you see, it is a credit union, so they could borrow as they repay, and so that was very helpful to the church, and it taught people how to be more prudent in their lives when it comes to their finances, and our young people helping them to know how to plan.
The essential components of the community are people. The late Reverend Victor Bob was a major part of this community, and his work lives on today.
I have many fond memories of him, but I don't know that I want to share them. We had a very good marriage, and he was a person he was a very humble man, and he never pushed himself forward. So his whole idea of ministry was servanthood. And not only our idea of ministry, not of promoting yourself. If there's any promotion to be done, you let God promote you, but other people can say what they want to say about you. So that is true, but be a servant. Because Jesus said that those who would be greatest among us must be servant. And that is something that I would really like to see exemplified in the church more often. Servanthood. It probably does not have a very pretty connotation because everybody wants to be up there. But to be servant, serve people where they're at. That was his whole understanding of ministry. And in collaboration with that, because of his position as regional director and his connection with Anderson, Indiana, which is our home base, so to speak, Church of God Reformation movement, he was able to source what we call work teams. They came down here to help us build the churches, like the Salters Church is one. Up to recently, some of them were still coming to the Silver Sands Church. They came to help build the Gardens Church and the Orange Hill Church. They would come, they were skilled people, and they would come and do these different, utilize their different skills in the building of the churches. So that was an important aspect. And when we first started, we lived in a different house, and we have had a very large sitting room. And one year they came and there was nowhere to house them all. There were 35. And they slept in their sleeping bags on our floor in the sitting room. And of course, you know, they cook and so on and so forth. And it was a very moving experience because it was quite different from anything they ever experienced. Most of them, as I recall, I believe that all of them were white people different from us, but they came and they tried to integrate with us, and we treated them as best we could and showed them our way of living. So that was another wonderful aspect, how they helped. That they didn't only come and had hands-on work, like painting and so on, but they also brought some funds. They collected funds and brought, that would help with the building, whatever it is they were building. I would have felt very incomplete if we had not had the opportunity to speak about him, because he was a selfless man, interested in the work of the church. He was not one that was interested in what he was getting from the church, because I recall that when we opened the facility at Gardens Church, where it is now, they were giving him some kind of stipend. I don't even remember what it was, but every month when the treasurer gave it to him, he returned it to him to put back into the project. And somebody must have said that to someone. They couldn't believe that that's what was happening. That's what he did, because he had his day job. He was an officer, a revenue officer, and so he was a civil servant. And also he was in business. So he gave it back to them. So he was not into it for anything that it could give him, because it really couldn't give him anything. But what he could give, and all of that, he got those ideas and those values from his aunt, Auntie Standard, because her daughter was eventually one of the persons who went to St. Vincent to start the work there. The work in St. Vincent is still going. They were pioneers in the work in St. Vincent, right? So his idea was to give to the church, and whatever we had, not only financial things, but the knowledge we had when he attended the Haggai Institute and so very learning, and all the learning that he had and what I had, we shared it with the church. And we were able to see good results in many areas.
With the growing congregation, there was felt that there was a need to have a larger, more modern sanctuary, because you're attracting lots of young people, so modern is essential, and because you're attracting people generally, bigger is essential as well. So where we are now, this church was built under the leadership of Reverend Dr. Victor Babb, who was the pastor at the time.
First how they started, each ministry in the church had a role to play. And the women, they gave everybody, I think it was about $5. And you had to use that. And then you pay, then you use that again, another $5. Now, the different ministries did that. The men, you know, all men, and a lot of men are not cooks. And they can't do certain things, but most of them and all of them had work the ground. So what they would do is, who sold pigs, that was their contribution. Yams from the ground, they reap pumpkins, whatever. And that is how they were able to build the funds to get us to starting. And this land was from a church, was a member of the church also, yeah.
So that's pretty much what was happening in terms of the congregation and its growth and its size. The longest serving pastor was Reverend Martin Goodridge, who pastored from 1987 to 2017. And during that period, we had several persons who assisted with leadership. Of note was Pastor Edwin Hurley, who was the assistant pastor to many of these pastors who would have led during that period.
The garden as a whole, therefore, the concept or the thing of garden has to be actually fixed in that context when you're talking about the work of the church. Now, when most of the young people migrated, the church had to adjust its program, and one of the things that happened is that since we were paying more attention to the adults, it became a stark reality that many of the old adults were illiterate. They signed their name with a -10. And as a result of that, we changed focus. And the first program that we came was a literary program, so as to help people to learn, those who couldn't read, to learn to read. That particular program, fortunately, was taken on by a young teacher who had graduated about 3 or 4 years before, Yvonne Bovell at that time. Went on to be the wife of the pastor and also to be a head teacher within the government service. So it was therefore a joy within the church and the community that to see, at first there were resistance because people did not want you to know that they couldn't read. But after she worked with 1 or 2 on individual, she was able to deal with that. And it was a joy to see and hear persons who were illiterate get up in the church and read the scripture. Now you don't have to depend on being told what the words say, but you could read it for yourself. And some of those individuals went on to be supervisory positions. They were capable and able and strong, but that was their main hurdle, couldn't read. But now they're able, they carry the same strength and enthusiasm into jobs, and as a result of them, they were promoted. You see, the other thing is that the church's program is not recipified as a person or persons holding on to the cross with both hands, trying to make sure that they are saved. Yes, we try to say, make it as certain as you can. But the church's program was more easily typified by an individual holding on to the cross with one hand and the other hand reaching down to help some other person up. And this was the kind of symbolism that was planted in our minds. And so when some of us were able to move into jobs of positions that you could help, one of the first things you would try to do is to help somebody who would not or would find it difficult in getting a job, make sure that they're capable enough, first by training them and then by placing them and seeing them move on and form their own family and develop. And so this you find that within the community and elsewhere, there are several persons that would tell you that it was a question of a leg up, getting somebody that or giving somebody a hand. We often look and reflect at in the scripture again to help us model of what we do is the Peter and the man at the gate beautiful. Yeah, Peter tell him, silver and gold we have not, but in the name of Jesus get up and walk. But he didn't start there because the man was trying, but he couldn't get up. So what Peter did was to give him a hand up. And as he do that, his ankle bones and so on receive strength. This is the kind of imagery within the ministry concept of the church. If you come to the Church of God, you will find that very often, or more often, they refer to it as the community Church of God, because it's not a community and a church, but it's a church within the community. And we do not follow the community. We try to set standards for which we try to bring the community up to those particular standards.
This little place has produced some stalwarts. The Garden Church of God, therefore, has been a big little church, consistently overachieving, way above its size, way above its capacity, and way above its physical boundaries. Your modern motto must now be, and I challenge you on this, don't stop now. For to whom much is given, and you have been given quite a lot, much is expected.
Many stories have been told of how people's lives have been transformed for the better through the good work of this church's ministry. A fine example of a community church that has been making souls to shine for the last 100 years. For that reason, we celebrate them, we honor them, and we grant them a place on My Community. I'm Sherwood McCaskie. Every blessing.